This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is the VSiN Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome into the VSiN Morning Line. Thank you for wrapping up your work week with us as we get you ready for another weekend of football. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. Thursday Night Football delivers another dud, but not if you're a Jets fan. Aaron Rodgers dazzles in his MetLife homecoming, in complete control of this one from start to finish as the Jets beat the Patriots 24-3. And honestly, Michael, that score feels a little bit generous to the Patriots, considering how things went for them. What were your takeaways from this game?
Well, you could see early on, and good morning to you, Grace and Harrison. You could see early on that the Jets understood how the Patriots need to play. And I think now that the season has been declared, this is going to happen more often than not. The Jets were very aggressive at the first drive. They knew they needed to score. They knew they needed to play from in front. They knew they needed to force New England, which has no passing game, into a passing game. And by getting the lead 14-0, they did that. And obviously they attacked the pocket. They attacked Jacoby Brissett. And Aaron Rodgers, I thought, looked fabulous. He was able to move around, make plays with his feet. He was pinpoint accurate. And they controlled this game from start to finish. I don't think after the second drive of the game, I ever thought the Patriots were going to cover the 6.5. It was a dead number all the way around, Harrison. To me, it was a great Jet win. I thought the stadium was alive. You could feel the energy even through your television set. I know Al Michaels was probably very bored with the game, and I'm sure he's excited to get it back to Toscano's tonight to have dinner.
Yeah, I hope we keep that level of offensive play improving for the New York Jets, or just offenses around the NFL. We talked about it yesterday as well. Would the New York Jets be able to diversify that offensive attack? Would they be able to get out to the lead? And I think that's probably the most encouraging thing if you are a New York Jets backer or just a New York Jets fan just in general. They were able to diversify their passing game. It wasn't just Garrett Wilson. They were able to find Allen Lazard, and shout out to anybody who tailed us on that prop, over 2.5 receptions. They were able to find Mike Williams. They were able to find Tyler Conklin. And I think that diversification of the offense is as important, Grace, for the team's progress going forward more than anything else.
Yeah, that's what it was about for me, is getting a diverse look at this offense. I don't think Breece Hall touched the ball until the 5th or 6th play of that first drive. And then Aaron Rodgers returning to vintage form. We saw glimpses of it in week 2, but this was by far his best game as a Jet. And he was mobile too. I mean, some of those there was a point in the game where he was 5 for 5 on his throws while running. He had the most sprint yards in a game since 2018. And if you're wondering how Next Gen Stats measures a sprint, it's anything above 12 miles an hour. So he was looking great, and kind of telling all the haters from the last few weeks, RELAX, relax. Like I was saying, we didn't have enough data points to make a big jump to conclusion about this Jets team, but if they play like this the rest of the way, I think we can put them back up there with the rest of these postseason contenders. Let's take a listen to Aaron Rodgers after the game on the Jets' expectations.
Man, I'm proud of our guys. We've been improving, but it hasn't been good enough for some people outside the room. So to have a performance like tonight, I don't know how many yards you finished with, but it feels really good. It's expectations. If the expectation is winning, then we're going to celebrate it, but we should expect to win. The next step is expecting to dominate.
Yeah, dominate. I mean, look, they dominated the Patriots. This was over quickly. And I think, to me, what we saw from the Jets offense was the ability to throw to get the lead. They mixed in their running game. Obviously, Lazard, as you called, Harrison, had a great night. And, the opponent is just not good enough. I mean, let's just be clear. I never saw a team miss more tackles in one game than the Patriots missed through this entire game. It was bad. They looked like the tired team. That stat about a team playing overtime and then having to travel on the Thursday night, I think there's something to it. You could just see the lack of energy. You could see the lack of of burst and acceleration within their defense, which has usually been the best part of their team. They did put a little pressure on them at times, but they couldn't finish the pressure. They let them escape the pocket. So it's a great win, and the Patriots are left to pick up the pieces to go home. They put Drake May in the game. I think ultimately the Patriots know now, if we can't run the ball, we have no chance to win the game. We have no passing game, Harrison.
Yeah, no, they stuffed Ramondre Stevenson last night, and they were just out of that game script in general. And I think it also didn't help them, obviously, as we talked about yesterday. Not having that offensive line and fully intact for this game also didn't do them any favors. And while I'm going to be curious to see here, Michael, how they're going to operate going forward, because it's not, I don't know if Drake May necessarily inspires them in terms of the passing game either. But at a certain point, if you feel as if you're not going to be able to be optimistic in a lot of game scripts because of the limited passing options or limited passing prowess of Jacoby Brissett, then at a certain point you just say, we might as well have Drake May out there to at least give ourselves a chance, at least see what the kid's got, because it's clear and it's evident. In a game script like that, Patriots had no chance. They had no chance at all.
Yeah.
And if you laid live points with the Jets last night, that was the play.
You can't put Drake May out there, Harrison. You can't put Drake May out there. He'll get killed. I mean, look, they gave up 7 sacks last night. They couldn't handle a simple TE stunt. Now, they played 2 rookies in the offensive line. You know, everybody's going to want the rookie to go out there and play. Caleb Williams has been a disaster in his 2 starts. Worst quarterback in the NFL history since 2016 against the blitz. I mean, to me, you're just asking for the quarterback to get hurt. If you put Drake May out there, you're asking for his eye level to come down. That offensive line is atrocious. It really is. And the Jets knew it. The Jets had zero respect for that offensive line. They attacked it from start to finish. They went outside their normal script. I mean, they actually were blitzing and bringing people because they knew, A, their receivers couldn't make an explosive play, and B, this offensive line couldn't hold up. So they saw a wounded duck on the field, the Jets did, and the Patriots, and they attacked them. So I think you're right. I just think, to me, everybody's going to call for Drake May. But, Harrison, I think when you go to Drake May, this kid could get hurt because this team isn't ready to protect.
Yeah, he could definitely. I mean, that's definitely on the table. I'm just wondering to myself then in general, why are the Patriots in this predicament then? You would hope that,
they have
knowing
no linemen.
that
I mean, they didn't draft a lineman. Last year this is the same situation. The one kid they signed to be the starting left tackle left camp. Elliott Wolf signed him. He was on Pittsburgh's team. And then he left. He got mad because he got benched. They signed Michael Owanu to be the right tackle. He hasn't played very well. They're missing their guard. They're trying to play these backup linemen in there. It just hasn't worked. I mean, it was the problem of the team last year, the offensive line. They couldn't block anybody last year. They were poorly coached last year in the offensive line, without a doubt. Now, Adrian Clem left. They hired a new line coach, but it really hasn't improved. It really hasn't improved at all. So, to me, that's the issue. That they didn't sign anybody in free agency that could have helped them in the line. And then, of course, naturally, they couldn't draft anybody because, they had to draft some skill players because they were missing that. So I think, to me, this is about they just didn't have enough arsenal to correct the offensive line, and that's the biggest problem on the team. And you put Drake May out there, it's going to get ugly, Harrison.
Yeah, I worry for the Patriots fans here because it could end up being like this for the remainder of the season. And I look back to week 1 and week 2, and they had good fights against the Seahawks. They obviously got the win against the Cincinnati Bengals, but maybe that was more the offenses in the NFL just not being good enough at the moment. We've bemoaned it for the last 2 weeks. The offensive just aren't playing at a high level. So what happens here now, Grace, if the offenses actually start to uptick now that they got the proper amount of reps, just like the Jets did last night? Now this Patriots team, maybe now you look at them and say, they're not going to upset any more survivor pools anymore because now the offenses are playing at a level that they just frankly can't keep up with.
Yeah, that's a valid point. But one thing I wanted to go back to Michael on, because he was mentioning the way the Jets blitzed. They actually blitzed Jacoby Brissett on 40% of his dropbacks. That was the team's highest blitz rate in a game since Robert Saleh took over in 2021.
Yeah.
So all the talk about him fixing the defense, do you think he's getting a little bit closer to that, Michael?
Well, no, I think you give them credit. I mean, give the Jets and the coaching staff credit. They saw a wounded duck. I mean, this is what happens in September, Grace. This is why we as a handicapper and a betting network have to be very careful about looking just at the wins or looking at the close games. You declare who you are as a football team in September. And it was very obvious from week one. It was obvious this summer the Patriots had no passing game. And whether they put Jacoby Brissett in there or whether they put Drake May in there, they're not going to throw the ball on anybody. They have to run the football. Now, I don't know why the Bengals didn't understand this, but clearly they didn't. Now, Seattle did. They threw for 100 yards last week against Seattle. They have no passing game. So now people are going to start attacking them. And now you're going to if you put Drake May in there, he's going to get attacked. He's going to get hit. You're going to lose confidence. They're not good enough up front. They have no explosive receivers. You could take any receiver you want out of the game. They have no one that can really make a play. So they're just going to keep getting pressure put on the quarterback. And if I feel bad for Jacoby Brissett, because he's a sitting duck back there. I mean, how many times did you see in the game they tried to run boots and nakeds? Well, the Jets knew that's all they could run. So they're bringing pressure off to this hash mark side. I mean, every call, the first play of the game, Brissett walks right into a defensive lineman who's in his face for a 1-yard pass play. This is what happens during the season. You can fool people in September for 2 weeks. You can't fool people for the rest of the season. I mean, it's going to be hard for the Patriots to win another game the rest of the year because they can't throw the football. Grace?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wouldn't want to put Drake May out there. He finishes his night 4 of 8 for 22 yards with 2 sacks. Don't want the future of your franchise getting beat up this early into his career. Okay, more football talk on the other side. But coming up next, we got a couple guests joining the show. Thomas Gable joining us at 7:45 with some bookmaker insights. Nick Whalen with a fantasy preview for the weekend. And Tim Murray with his best bets for college football week 3. But coming up after this break, we're getting into the biggest games of the weekend. Cowboys, Ravens, Eagles, Saints, Chiefs, Falcons. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, we preview all the NFL action and a good college football card. Mike Detillier and the Red Hot Saints, and Adam Chernoff, NFL picks and props. Follow the Money weekdays 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we get you ready for another football weekend. We're touching on the biggest NFL games of Week 3, but first, some baseball news. Shohei Ohtani finally does it, becoming the first player ever to join the 50-50 club with 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. But it's not just him reaching that mark. It was the game he had last night, too, against the Marlins, going 6 for 6 with 3 home runs, 10 ribbies in a 20-4 win. Everything this guy does is historic, Harrison. What is there left to say about him?
No, he was absolutely he's been spectacular all season long. And I do wonder now that he's been able to perform at this level, will the Dodgers actually consider putting him back on the mound next season? Because he's been performing at such a high level, stealing bases, hitting home runs. I think it's something worth to consider, particularly if you want to keep him healthy and make him validate that contract. But as a Yankee fan, I will say this. What really validates the contract, Michael and Grace, is postseason performance. This is all well and good, but at the end of the day, it's just one of 162. What will you do in October is what really matters. And, I'm thinking about that even as like a Yankee fan, like, oh, it's great. Juan Soto's played at a high level. What will you do in the postseason? That's really all that matters. No, I don't want to throw any shade on him. I don't want to sound like a hater. But I think when you're a fan, of those teams where the expectations are at that type of level, then bring on October.
No, I get it, Harrison. I get it. I think let's just celebrate the moment for him just for now, and then maybe tomorrow. Yeah, it's okay. No, you're not wrong about the Dodgers' annual postseason meltdown. But I did think it was a really cool moment last night because the Marlins manager was asked after the game, Skip Shoemaker. They had the opportunity to walk him before that third home run, but obviously they let him go up to the plate and face Mike Baumann. Shoemaker said it would have been bad baseball karma, bad luck from the baseball gods if they had walked him and taken that moment away from him. So it was kind of just a sign of respect there. And then the stadium, too, was really loud. Like, I was looking at the video trying to zoom in, like seeing, are there Dodger blue jerseys in here? I think it was just like Marlins fans and baseball fans in general who were happy to witness history. But the fact he's doing this all while recovering from Tommy John surgery as well, like most players would be at home, right? Just incredible.
Yeah. No, and shout out to the Marlins because it would have been, they're right. It would have violated the baseball gods if they would have tried to walk him. Yeah, obviously he was hot at the plate last night, but you're the Marlins. You're not playing for anything. That would have been terrible if they were able to do that. I feel bad for the guy who gave up the home run. But at least you're a part of history. That is for sure.
I mean, he'll get to tell that story at Thanksgiving. I mean, I think he'll be okay.
He'll be all right. He'll be all right.
So congrats to Ohtani. Let's get into some of these top NFL games now. The Ravens and Cowboys. Ravens were upset by the Raiders at home, and they still are the favorite in this game because that's how bad the Cowboys were beaten by the Saints. It's the first time a John Harbaugh team has started 0-2 since 2015. Here's Lamar Jackson, before we get into this game, on how the locker room feels right now.
We're not moping around. Even though we lost, like I said, we're starting the season off slow. Our guys not like doubting each other. Like, oh man, is this the reason we losing or this and that? It's like, man, we got to go out there and get it. We got to make the fan base happy, got to make ourselves happy, but it starts in practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is obviously a big game, 0-2 against the Cowboys. Cowboys play on a short week. They have to go play the Giants in the Meadowlands on Thursday night. So, this game takes on a whole new meaning. Nate Wiggins, their rookie first-round pick from Clemson, didn't practice yesterday, which really is bad news for the Ravens because they've given up 8.6 yards per attempt. They can't really cover anybody. Marlon Humphreys is a better inside corner than outside. But when you look at them offensively, it's the same story. They're the number one team in the National Football League in running the football. They're the number one team in the National Football League in stopping the run, except their passing game has not been good, nor has their passing defense been good. So they're going to have to get some confidence. They're going to have to prove that they could throw it. And one thing about Dallas, I mean, for all the points they gave up in the big plays, can Baltimore repeat those plays? Baltimore can't get the ball down the field. I mean, we talk about Zay Flowers being a number one receiver. He averages under 10 yards a catch. So this is going to be a game where I think both teams want to play from in front, and it's going to come down to who can get the lead. And for Baltimore, can they keep the lead? They've given up 34 points in the second half, 20 in the fourth quarter, which is not good for Zach Orr as his first-time offensive coordinator, Grace.
Yeah, and one of the concerns on the other side is the Cowboys pass rush, which just hasn't shown up at all. Right now they rank 21st in pass rush win rate. Micah Parsons, a big part of that, admitted last week after the Saints game, he felt like he was in a maze with all the Saints pre-snap motion. But here he is on the implications of this game. Oh, just kidding. I thought we were going to hear from Micah Parsons, but we will hear from him later on. But anyways, Michael, what does this Cowboys pass rush need to do?
Well, I mean, look, everybody knows they have to get double Parsons. They slide the protections to Parsons. It's really about Lawrence. It's really about everyone else. Lawrence hasn't been a good player going back to last year. And I had 2 sacks against Cleveland in the opener, so everybody was excited about that. But that may have more to do with Cleveland playing their backup offensive tackles in that game. I think this is really, Trayvon Diggs didn't practice yesterday, so the coverage for Dallas is concerned. But even as much as the New Orleans Saints threw the ball effectively against the Cowboys in that game, the Cowboys have still only given up 6.8 yards per attempt in 2 games. Now, I understand they played Deshaun Watson, who was horrendous, and then they played the best quarterback so far this year in Derek Carr. I think, to me, Dallas is vulnerable defensively, especially if Diggs doesn't play and if you can protect. If you can get Parsons under control. And, look, the Cowboys, last year, Grace, they had 124 first-half point differential. So far this year, they're behind 38-36 in the first half. These are 2 teams that pride themselves on building the lead and playing from in front. And so far, neither team has been able to do it. Baltimore's just 1 point ahead in the first half. Dallas is 2 points behind. That's not the style they want to play. And if you don't believe me about how playing from in front matters, watch the game last night. It was everything in that game was who was going to get the lead. And when the Jets had it at 14-0, you knew the game was over.
Speaking of playing from in front, there was a play that caught my attention. It was one of the luckiest plays of the NFL season, and Cowboys were on the wrong side of it. According to Next Gen Stats, that Alvin Kamara 57-yard touchdown run, it was on a little screen pass. It was supposed to be a 6-yard play, but a guy misses the tackle. He shoots off, and then they're up 21-6 instead of 14-6. Who knows? Maybe Saints would have scored on that drive anyways, but Cowboys going in that big hole, who knows how that impacted their game script. So I kind of look for things like that too, like little moments of luck in these games and how that changes things and how it might go the other way in the future. But we do have that Micah Parsons sound now, so let's take a listen to the young Cowboy star.
I think the mentality is to bounce back, stop this run, and show people that you can't stop the run. I think it's definitely a prove a game when you get a game like this back to back. See a couple of pushed-off teams Sunday? I definitely think so. I think they're coming in with some heavy redemption on a couple of games they shouldn't have lost and tight ones. And, we got to come back from, that mind-boggling loss we had at home. So it's going to be a great battle.
Well, look, they usually play well at home, but they haven't in the last 2 home games. I mean, we saw Green Bay go up and down the field on them in a playoff game, and then we saw the Saints just dominate them in the first game at home. Look, they can't stop the run. Maisie Smith is injured. He's got a back problem, which means he's not going to play. And then, of course, they traded for Jordan Phillips from the Giants, who was the Giants were going to cut him. Cowboys were desperate to find another big body to put inside. This isn't the kind of team you want to be deficient at defensive tackle against in terms of the Ravens. They can run the football. I think the Ravens have to find their identity. Look, the Ravens backs are to the wall. The Cowboys, I'm not sure where they are. This is where it gets a little bit hairy because the Cowboys, this is one of those where you have to have great mental toughness. You've got to have the ability to block out the distractions. And if they get behind in this game, I think it's going to somersault downward in a spiral for them, Grace. So, I think Baltimore is a team that's going to be the more desperate team. I think Dallas is a team trying to put things together based on their injury list and based on their inability to stop the run.
Yeah, you have Micah Parsons calling it a prove-it game. I do think the Ravens are a bit more desperate in this spot just because of the two divisions that these teams are in, right? Cowboys will have more opportunities to climb to the top of theirs. Ravens don't. And only one team since the 2002 expansion has made the playoffs after starting 0-3. That was the 2018 Texans. But no 0-3 team has ever made a Super Bowl. So if the Ravens want to live up to these championship expectations that they have, this is the prove it game right here. Okay, coming up on the other side, we're going to get into college football. Lots of games here with major playoff implications, and including a revenge game for one Josh Heupel against his alma mater. You're listening to the VSiN Morning Line.
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
The only thing better than football is the excitement of all the contests. Catch the Circa Friday Football Invitational at 9 p.m. Eastern with picks from some of the sharpest bettors around the country. Then on Saturdays at 9, watch the Football Contest Show, where our expert hosts and guests go through the consensus choices for some of the biggest betting contests in the world. The fun doesn't stop there. Visit VSiN.com for the full lineup and join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Happy Friday. You're tuned into the VSiN Morning Line with Harrison Sanford, Michael Lombardi, and Grace Remington. We're going to get into the college football slate for week number 4 in just a moment, but want to focus in on a big game in week number 3 in the NFL. So far, the New Orleans Saints offense is absolutely cooking, and it would seem as if they can continue that trend against an Eagles team that has been struggling on that side of the ball. But I think a lot of us NFL bettors are wondering, really, is this Saints offense for real? Here's Derek Carr with his response. Oh, sorry, we do not have.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. You know, we had to prove it to our fans. Like, we didn't give them, good enough, football last year. And, last year, at the end of the year, it was really fun. I had a lot of fun at the end of the year. There was, some rough times at the beginning and in the middle, but, that last half of the year, I did feel that love and that appreciation in the offseason. I felt it when I would go places, and it was awesome, have the support. But I think what we've done, obviously, the first 2 weeks here, I think, we always talk about, like, we gotta win. We gotta win for our city.
Well, I think none of this matters the first 2 weeks of the season if they don't beat Philadelphia. I mean, this is going to be a good challenge. Philadelphia has played 26 minutes of football in 2 games, right? They averaged 26 minutes on the field. They've given up 400 yards per game. And this is the right team to be playing at the right time on a short week. Now, I know Philly's going to be desperate, having lost a game. But to me, this secondary struggles to cover. They don't have great pass rush. And so this sets up perfectly for what the Saints want to do offensively with Clint Kubiak controlling the offense. And Derek Carr's right. I mean, down the stretch, this Saint team played really well. They won 4 of the last 5 games. He throws 14 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. So they had some momentum. They fired Pete Carmichael even after the momentum and hired Kubiak. So they fixed the offensive line, which is critical. I mean, look, Dennis Allen was there when they drafted Derek Carr at the Raiders. They know Carr. If you can keep Carr clean in the pocket, he'll throw the ball and look pretty doing it. He's a lot like Jared Goff. Once they get hit, once it starts to become dirty in the pocket, then all of a sudden stuff falls apart. So, look, Harrison, I think this is a great opportunity. I think what we know about the Saints right now is they're confident and they've been playing really well. It's a huge home game for them to show their fans they're for real.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people, when you look at these two teams and this New Orleans Saints offense, are backing the over. As of right now, over 70% of that handle is taking the over because of all those adjustments the New Orleans Saints have made on the offensive side of the ball, Michael. And I think it might continue to pan out just judging by the quality of their offense and also just where the Eagles' defense is right now at this current moment. All right, let's switch over to the college football slate, week number 4. And one of the more prominent games on the schedule is a matchup in the SEC between the Tennessee Volunteers and Oklahoma. And this matchup has a level of intrigue, and not just because you have a Heisman candidate in Nico Iamaleava at quarterback for Tennessee, but it's also a homecoming for Josh Heupel, who was a part of the Oklahoma student program as not only just a player, but as also a coach. Here he is on making it back to Norman.
What should they expect in terms of atmosphere and crowd noise at Oklahoma?
Should be a great crowd. It's a passionate fan base. I'm expecting them to be extremely quiet for us out of respect to me and our program too. So.
Yeah, love hearing that from Josh Heupel. Obviously, he knows all about the Sooners fan base, having played there and coached there. He's really one of the reasons for their rise to success since the turn of the millennium. And for Oklahoma, this is a huge opportunity for them. Not only is it their first SEC game, so their first chance to prove they belong in the best conference in college football, but they rarely get really good home games like this. Texas has always been their best game, but that's always played on a neutral site. So love Josh Heupel poking fun at the fans there because it'll be a little bit of a struggle for this offense to hear itself. And by the way, this is Nico Iamaleava's first true road game. The Oklahoma defense can keep them in this game. But if Nico struggles, he has a fantastic running back who can take the pressure off him, Dylan Sampson, who already has 9 rushing touchdowns on the year, averaging over 7 yards a pop. So this will be a fun one in Norman. And Brett Venables poking a little fun at Josh Heupel, too, back when they had to recruit him in 1999, telling a funny story about that. Take a listen.
We didn't know anything about Josh, but he was outside of the office windows. There's a quarterback. He's on a visit, and there's maybe 2 guys on a visit, and he was one of them. And he was skinny and just frail, and it was in the middle of winter, just kind of pasty, and the ball was coming on. He was southpaw, probably hadn't played in a couple months, and the ball was wobbly. Josh could occasionally do that. And we're like, that ain't it.
I wasn't expecting the adjective pasty as the way that they would describe Josh Heupel. But going back to just Josh Heupel in general, Grace, he's also explosive, or at least coaches an explosive offense. What do you expect from Josh Heupel in his return in terms of the actual production from his team?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would be a little peeved if I were him going into this one, hearing Brett Venables call me frail, weak, pasty. I mean, pasty is like, that's not even, that goes beyond not being able to tan well. I feel like that implies you're just like sitting at home all day. Like you don't see the sunlight, you don't touch grass. He said he threw a wobbly ball. It was the late, great Mike Leach who actually vouched for Heupel and got him signed to the Sooners squad. And then they went on to win a national championship. So Josh Heupel probably a bit more motivated after hearing that story retold. And he's a coach that won't let up. He is very aware of the spread. He wants to cover the spread. There are a few coaches you need to keep in mind who will do that. But when it comes to this game, I said the Sooners defense can keep them in it, but the offense really struggles. Their success rate ranks 103rd nationally. They're going 3 and out on 44% of their possessions, and it's because the Sooners O-line has been a mess early this season. And now they're going up against the Vols, which are one of the best defensive lines in the country. The great thing about the Vols is they're not even blitzing to get pressure. Their pressure to blitz ratio actually ranks 8th nationally. They're only bringing 4 guys. Oklahoma, not great in pass blocking. They're even worse in run blocking. So they just need to find a way to stay on the field and keep Nico off it, because Tennessee is a real threat for scoring on every possession. They're actually scoring on about 75% of their possessions this year. So for me, I know home field advantage will be a big one for the Oklahoma Sooners in this one, but it's just not enough. I'm going to lay the 6 points with the Tennessee Vols here.
Yeah, definitely can understand that. And there's still a large number of the betting public that is also taking that as well. Last I just checked, and I just had it up here, as it currently stands, over 94% of the betting public, or at least the handle, is on Tennessee covering that spread. And I would not be surprised if that ends up being the case. And also some good money on the over as well. All right, let's think with another top 25 matchup now. And now we have Nebraska and freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola. They are taking on Illinois. They are 8-point favorites at home. 43 points is the over-under. How do you like this one?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a first quarter play here. You know, I love those quick hitters. Get them over with early. We're going to lay the 1.5 points with Nebraska in the first quarter. Dylan Raiola has showed great maturity. He is Patrick Mahomes Jr., so has one of the greatest
even
mentors
down
you
to
could
the
possibly...
celebration. Even down to the celebration.
I know, right? It's like almost creepy watching the video side by side.
It's a little too much. It's a little too much. He's got to be a little bit more original. This is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, do his own thing. Like it feels a little bit high school to me, but he's a freshman. He'll find his. I'm not going to get on him for that. He's playing great. Nebraska tied 13th nationally in first quarter scoring, averaging 10.5 points a game, while allowing their opponents 3.5 points in the first quarter. The Huskers have a great secondary. So we saw that against Colorado and their powerful passing attack. They held them to 10 points in that game. They held them to a shutout in the first half. Illinois' O-line has been struggling, so they might have Luke Altmaier, their quarterback, under duress in this one. It's the first time in decades, it feels like the first time since the Tom Osborne era, that Nebraska is relevant. It's the first ranked game between these opponents in 40 years. You got the Friday night game, this is actually mathematically the best home field advantage in college football. So similar to last week when we played the first quarter Kansas State cover, which lost on an unlucky fluke type of a play. We're kind of doing the same strategy here, just back in a really great home environment. Nebraska to start fast, Illinois to start a little slow here. So take Nebraska to cover in the first quarter here.
Yeah, I love those first quarter bets there, Grace, especially for the home team. We just hope it pans out, and if it does that, you could also obviously maybe get back into the game for those live bettors as well. We'll see how it pans out. And another top 25 matchups in college football, USC traveling to Michigan, and also Utah traveling to Oklahoma State. Maybe those will be in Grace's best bets later on in the show. But coming up, Thomas Gable joins us to break down where he's seeing the action in the NFL Week 3 slate. That's coming up next, right here on the VSiN Morning Line.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. The Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson gives you daily insights into finding value on each day's MLB card. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to the VSiN Morning Line. Harrison Sanford, Michael Lombardi, and Grace Remington joining you on this Football Friday as we look ahead to Week 4 in the college football slate and Week 3 in the NFL slate. And one of the bigger matchups, Michael, is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons coming off of impressive, albeit improbable win against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs going into this game, sneaking out a win against the Cincinnati Bengals and dealing with some major injuries in their running back room. How do you think this one pans out with the Atlanta Falcons at home?
You know, it's amazing how one win can just take everybody's perception and shift it, even though it was a win that I'm not sure that was a win you earned. It was a win you were given. I think there's two kind of wins, but nonetheless, the Falcons got it. And I think, to me, this is the tale of two teams, right? The Falcons have this momentum that they get from winning that close game in Philadelphia, and the Kansas City Chiefs have no momentum, even though they beat a team at home in Cincinnati because the way they won the game. And I think at the root of all evils for the Kansas City Chiefs is their left tackle position. We talked about it all summer long. They drafted a young man from BYU in the second round. They also have another second round pick in Moses. Neither of those two players play well in the game, and Patrick Mahomes has his lowest quarterback rating in his National Football League career at 47.1. His QBR has never been this low. Last week, he throws for 151 yards and 2 interceptions. It was the first game that he's thrown for under 200 yards and had 2 interceptions in his career. But he won the game. What's so strikingly hard to understand about this Chief team is they've only converted 5 third downs all year, which are 3 more than the Carolina Panthers. So, to me, this is a game about, can Mahomes and this offense get it back on track? Can they run the football effectively without Isaiah Pacheco? Will they bring Kareem Hunt up? Is he in shape? I think if this is a one-dimensional team against Atlanta, puts a lot of pressure on the left tackle, a lot of pressure on Mahomes. For Atlanta, I mean, look, they're going to try to run the ball. They're not an explosive offense. Drake London averages 8.6 a catch. Pitts is at 7.7. But Bijan Robinson is their best player. They run the football effectively. Can they do that on the Chiefs? It won't be as easy, Harrison, as they did it on the Eagles.
Yeah, speaking of that running attack for the Atlanta Falcons, I think the big difference that we saw in Kirk Cousins and that offense last week was their ability to run the ball. And obviously, Kirk Cousins not always lining up in the pistol formation, which allowed them to get a bit more traction in that play-action game. We'll continue our NFL breakdowns and get some more betting insight right now. Joining us on the Progressive Guest Line is Thomas Gable, sportsbook director at the Borgata. Thomas, thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. Let's flash back to last night, Thursday Night Football. How did the books make out, and how has the Jets' maybe odds changed in the AFC East after their big-time win against the Patriots?
Well, I think last night the results were very similar to what we kind of thought coming into this year. I mean, the Patriots, I would say, probably played a little bit above what everybody thought in the first 2 weeks of the season. I mean, coming into the year, they were right there with Carolina. We thought those two were going to be the worst two teams in the league. And, you know, Patriots come out week 1, pull off the big upset against the Bengals, and certainly stayed with Seattle in week 2. So they were attracting some money last night against the Jets. And we've kind of been waiting for this Jets performance and from Aaron Rodgers and company, because, again, there's been a lot of optimism coming into this year on the New York Jets, and this might be finally the year now we have Aaron Rodgers healthy. So, and the game played out that way. So, you know, we had more Jets money. Game closed, Jets laying 6. We did take some Patriots money, though, so it wasn't a big decision by any means for us. And, you know, overall, when you count into all the parlays and the total, and, you know, we came out fine with the result last night, even though we needed the Patriots, but certainly was not a big decision for us, and we came away just fine from last night.
Yeah, I know the shock in the Borgata of the Eagles losing that game has still permeating through the building. And, this line was supposed to be the Eagles maybe -1 or a pick 'em. And now in most shops, and I'd love to know what the line is at the Borgata, it's +3. Eagles are getting 3 on the road in New Orleans.
Yeah.
What's your handicap on this game, and what's the action like in a very friendly Eagle house?
Well, now that it went to 3, you're certainly getting Eagles money at +3, Michael. But like you said, I mean, this is an Eagles team that, I mean, everybody was on them on Monday night against the Falcons. And like you said, I think there was a lot of shock going through everybody with the result there and some of the decisions for Nick Sirianni and company. And again, let's not gloss over what happened defensively either. Letting Kirk Cousins go down the field and, 1 minute and 48 seconds or whatever that was that he had. And let's face it, this is an Eagles team that defensively last year continued to let them down, was a big reason why we saw that big nosedive happen in the latter half of the season. They just could not stop anybody. And a lot of questions coming in this year. Could the secondary get better? Would Vic Fangio turn things around? This is a defense that is still letting up a lot of yards per game, and now they're going into New Orleans, who, let's face it, has probably looked the best of any offense so far this year. So you have Philadelphia, who's, could be 2-0 right now, probably should be 2-0 against a Saints team that has certainly exceeded expectations so far. So like you said, initially, when we opened this game, I had the Eagles basically as a 2-point road favorite before Monday night, and then we adjusted, obviously, and the market has certainly adjusted as well. So now the Saints are laying 3 most places. Probably it would go down to 2.5 here locally. But, as you would expect, the Eagles are attracting money, especially the key number of 3. I certainly don't harbor any ill feelings for anybody taking the 3 here with the Eagles presently, if you want to do that. But I mean, listen, New Orleans is a team. I've already bumped them up 3 points in my power ratings in the first 2 weeks. So they certainly have exceeded my expectations and how the offense has looked. And I think this Eagles defense is going to be challenged again. They just cannot seem to get much pressure there on the front 4. And, Derek Carr, if he is not feeling any pressure, he's going to be able to produce.
Thomas, what about this Ravens-Cowboys game? Being on the East Coast, I imagine you get some attention on the Ravens. Of course, the Cowboys get attention no matter where you are in the country. But this one, a pick'em game, and both teams dealing with questions at this point in the season. So where do you see the respected action coming in on this one?
This game has been pretty evenly bet, Grace. And we opened the Cowboys as a point favorite, and now the Ravens we have installed as a 1-point favorite. But I expect this game to be very evenly bet. It has been so far, and I don't really foresee unless somebody really comes in with a strong opinion here in the next couple of days. I don't see a big decision coming on this game either. The total is 48. It's touched 48.5, but back down to 48 now. So, I think this line, it really is going to remain around a pick or Ravens favored by a point. But again, 2 teams that certainly have not gotten off to the start they wanted to. Baltimore, again, I've downgraded them 1.5 in my power ratings, and Dallas is pretty much right where they started the year. So, looking ahead, I would have assumed that the Ravens probably would have been a little bit, maybe like a 2.5 point favorite a couple weeks ago. But, right now it's pretty much a pick 'em game, and I expect it to, again, pretty evenly bet game here.
Where are you seeing the most action in the college football slate?
For college football, I mean, there's a couple of marquee games, obviously, on the schedule this week. I mean, one of the games that I think has attracted a decent amount of attention that isn't necessarily one of those games that maybe is the marquee game is Miami against South Florida. And this is a Miami team who I think still the jury's out a little bit on and where this should be. But currently Miami laying 16 and a half, but I think there's not real consensus on where this line necessarily should end up.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on that one, TG. Thank you again for your time and enjoy your weekend.
All right, you got it.
All right,
guys.
So, yep. Coming up next, hour 2 of the VSiN Morning Line and games with erratic quarterbacks.
A new football season means a new lineup on VSiN. Start your day with